The Navajo people, one of the largest Native American tribes, refer to themselves as Dine, meaning the people. The name Navajo originated from interactions with Spanish settlers, derived from the Tiwa Pueblo word Navajo, meaning farm fields in the valley. The Navajo language belongs to the southern Athabascan branch of the Athabascan language family, and it is mutually intelligible with certain Apache languages. The Navajo and Apache share a common ancestry, having migrated from northwestern Canada and eastern Alaska to the southwestern United States around the 15th century. Additionally, some Navajos use the Navajo Sign Language and the intertribal system, known as Plain Sign Talk. In Navajo culture, the clan system defines relationships between individuals and families. A fundamental rule within this system is that individuals may only marry partners from outside their own clans, which also include the clans of their foregrandparents. This ensures diversity and strengthens family connections. The Navajo spiritual belief system recognizes two types of beings: the Earth people and the Holy people. The Navajo creation story describes their journey through three previous worlds, the black, blue, and yellow worlds, before arriving in the current world, known as the Glittering World. The Navajo believe they have a sacred duty to maintain balance and harmony between themselves and the natural world. The holy people instructed them to honor and protect their homeland, marked by four sacred mountains: Blanca Peak, Cisnagini; in Colorado, Mount Taylor, Tsudzil; in New Mexico, the San Francisco Peaks, de Coasliad; in Arizona, and Hesperus Mountain, Dibnitsa, in Colorado. These mountains, along with surrounding rivers, form the spiritual boundaries of their homeland. Archaeological and historical evidence indicates that the ancestors of the Navajo and Apache arrived in the American Southwest around 1400 CE. Initially hunter-gatherers, the Navajo adopted agricultural practices through interactions with the Pueblo peoples, learning to cultivate crops such as corn, beans, and squash, known as the Three Sisters. These crops became central to their diet and cultural practices, providing essential nutrients and versatility in preparation. As European settlers expanded westward, the Navajo encountered new traditions and technologies. Some of these were adopted into their way of life, further enriching their cultural heritage while they continued to navigate the challenges brought by colonization and change. One of the most significant developments for the Navajo was herding animals, such as sheep and goats, which they adopted from the Spanish. These animals became essential not only to the Navajo diet, but also as a significant source of trade with settlers and other tribes. Sheep, in particular, became a form of currency and a symbol of family wealth and status. Navajo women mastered the art of spinning and weaving wool into blankets and clothing, which were both practical and deeply expressive. These textiles, often showcasing intricate designs, were highly valued as trade items and works of art. The Navajo also acquired horses from the Spanish, which transformed their mobility and way of life. Horses enabled them to expand their territory, improve trade routes, and participate in new ceremonial practices that included songs and prayers dedicated to both sheep and horses. This marked a profound integration of these animals into their cultural and spiritual traditions. The Navajo had a complex relationship with the Pueblo peoples, characterized by both cooperation and conflict. The two groups had long-standing trade networks, exchanging items such as maize and woven cotton from the Pueblos for bison meat, hides, and stone from the Navajo. However, conflicts arose, with some Pueblo communities altering ceremonial practices and timing to avoid Navajo raids. Despite these tensions, the Navajo adopted several Pueblo practices, including aspects of agriculture and ceremonial traditions. Spanish records from the mid-16th century mention the Navajo under the name Apache de Navajo, referring to groups in the Chama region east of the San Juan River. By 1640, the term Navajo was used to describe people ranging from the Chama area to regions west and northwest of present-day Santa Fe, New Mexico. The Navajo called their homeland Dineta, meaning land of the people. Spanish settlers often oppressed the Pueblo tribes during this period, leading to the Pueblo Revolt in 1680. During the revolt, the Pueblo peoples temporarily expelled the Spanish from New Mexico, but were reconquered by 1692. Many pueblos sought refuge with the Navajo during this time, fleeing Spanish repression and forming closer bonds with their Navajo neighbors. By the late 18th century, the Navajo migrated southwest to the present-day Four Corners region, making Canyon de Chelly their stronghold. This move was driven by hostile pressures from the Spanish in the south, the Comanche in the east, and the Ute in the north. The Navajo generally preferred peaceful relations over warfare and sought to avoid large-scale conflict when possible. During this period, they prospered materially, creating distinctive clothing, crafting jewelry, raising livestock, and cultivating crops. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, the Spanish launched several military campaigns against the Navajo, including expeditions in the Mount Taylor and Chusca Mountain regions of New Mexico. These interactions fluctuated between war and trade, with occasional minor raids by both Navajo bands and Spanish settlers. In 1800, Spanish Governor Fernando de Chacon led an expedition of 500 men to the Tunica Mountains, prompting 20 Navajo leaders to approach him and seek peace. This demonstrated the Navajos' consistent preference for negotiation and coexistence over prolonged conflict. In 1804 and 1805, the Navajo and Spaniards launched significant expeditions against each other's settlements. By May 1805, another peace agreement was established. This pattern of peacemaking, raiding, and trading among the Navajo, Spaniards, Apache, Comanche, Hopi, and Pueblo peoples persisted until the arrival of American forces in 1846. The United States and the Navajo first encountered the United States Army in 1846 during the Mexican-American War, when the U.S. took control of New Mexico and Arizona. One of the primary goals of the U.S. government in the region was to pacify the Navajo, who had frequently raided Spanish settlements. However, instead of fostering peace, the federal government's actions often escalated tensions, leading to increased warfare. When the Navajo leader Narbona first learned about the Americans in 1846, he decided to observe them firsthand. Traveling with a small party that included elders, Narbona approached Santa Fe cautiously. From a hidden vantage point, they observed the American forces and concluded that the U.S. Army was too powerful for the Navajo to confront directly. Narbona believed it would be wiser to establish amicable relations with the Americans. That same year, Charles Bent, a trader, described the Navajo in a letter to the Indian Commissioner, William Medill, as an industrious, intelligent, and warlike tribe of Indians who cultivate the soil and raise sufficient grain for their own consumption and a variety of fruits. The Treaty of Bear Springs in November 1846, Navajo leaders Narbona, Zarzilla, and Largo accepted an invitation from a small party of American soldiers under the command of Captain John Reed to meet with Colonel Alexander Doniphan and his force of 350 soldiers at Bear Springs, Ojo del Oso. There, they negotiated a treaty of peace. However, the Navajo leaders represented only their own bands, not the entire Navajo nation, a distinction the Americans failed to understand. Both sides violated the treaty, and the Treaty of Bear Springs was never ratified by the U.S. Senate. Continued treaties and broken promises in 1848, the Navajo and the United States signed the Newby Treaty, which was quickly broken. In 1849, another treaty was signed at Canyon de Chelly, allowing forts and trading posts to be established on Navajo land. In return, the U.S. promised generous donations and liberal and humane measures. However, shortly after the treaty was signed, a dispute over a stolen horse led to tragedy. The U.S. Army fired a cannon into a group of Navajo, killing about 20 and wounding several others. Among the casualties was the respected elder and leader, Narbona. Mortally wounded, Narbona returned to his hogan to bid farewell to his family before passing away. Known for his efforts to promote peace, Narbona's death was a significant loss to the Navajo people. Prophecy and Sacred Journeys in 1849, for Navajo medicine men made a sacred journey to Tohiagli, meeting place of waters, to consult with the page of prophecy. They performed the necessary rituals and offerings, reading the marks in the sand, messages from the holy people. The marks foretold a journey to a distant place and a time of great loss, marked by numerous burials. This prophecy foreshadowed the hardships the Navajo would face in the coming years. Around the same time, the blind Navajo prophet Bina Yuden, a medicine man who saw with his mind, foretold similar warnings. As the 1860s approached, growing numbers of American settlers in New Mexico met fierce resistance from the Mescalero, Apache, and Navajo, who fought to protect their traditional lands and way of life. In response, the U.S. Army